Well, welcome to Devon. Welcome to Torquay. Torquay, home of Agatha Christie, home of Fawlty Towers, and if Phil Barber's PR is to be believed, famous holiday destination of the Beatles, and possible location for the next Winter Olympics. I'm sure Phil's on a retainer from the local tourist board. He was certainly bigging them up last night. Devon, the only English county to rhyme with heaven. Those of you, who's never been this far west before in the UK? If you've never been this far west, you might just now be getting the inkling why the wise men came from the east. Okay. The speech entitled Knock Knock. Please welcome Dave McAvoy.
Knock knock is a sound I hear every morning when I wake up. Knock knock is a sound I hear every evening going to my bed. Knock knock is a sound I hear all day long. Mr. Contest Chair, ladies and gentlemen, today I'm talking to you about opportunity. Have you ever felt that you could have achieved something more in your lives, but for a missed opportunity? Have any of you ever felt that the time for you to do something in your life is gone? Too late for me? There's a 16th century author, George Whitton, who said, "Opportunity knocks but once." I am here today to say poppycock. Balderdash. Nonsense. Opportunity does not knock but once. Opportunity knocks constantly and consistently for everybody in this room. Opportunities are not snowflakes, each one unique and individual, a one-off. No, opportunities are like buses. If you've missed that one, there will be another one along in a minute. I'm a salesman by trade. I sell websites. As such, I'm trained to recognize opportunity. When Barack Obama was giving his famous inaugural speech, "Yes, we can," I sat at home on my couch, feeling inspired and thinking, does he need a website? Opportunities are multiple and endless and everywhere. Let me tell you how I met my wife. It was a sunny Sunday afternoon in my small town called Sligo. She was walking across a bridge with some people I knew, but I didn't know her. I stopped her and asked, "Who are you?" She told me her name was Tara. It only took me 9 months to convince Tara that I was the most handsome and clever man she had ever met. And as such, I deserved to go out with the most beautiful woman that I had ever met. As we got to know each other, we realized our paths should have crossed hundreds of times. I was born in County Donegal, in the northwest of Ireland, in a small town called Convoy. Tara was born elsewhere, but her family ran a pub in County Donegal, in a small town called Convoy. As a little girl, she was taken for walks by the hand. Her aunt used to bring her by my front gate. If I hadn't been obsessed with a little blue tractor, I might have noticed her. She worked in the same place as I worked. She knew the same people I knew. She went to a graduation dance I should have gone to if I hadn't left school. We moved in the same circles at different times. Your opportunities are not gifts you are given. You must reach out and take them. Not all opportunities will work out. I once invested in a mango plantation in Cambodia. It turned out to be an entirely fruitless gesture. I would love to tell you that it sounded like a brilliant idea at the time, but even back then, listening to my best friend, full of beer, it sounded ridiculous. Don't waste time looking back at missed opportunities. If you do that, you will miss what's coming next. Not all your opportunities will be obvious. In 2006, the company I worked for collapsed. I was unemployed. I had 2 small children, a pregnant wife, and a large mortgage. It was at that time I recognized an opportunity to start my own business. I remember sitting on the couch explaining to my wife, this could all go horribly wrong. We could lose our home. She wrote me a little note. It read, "You will be great. And don't worry about losing our home. You can buy me a new one." 7 years later, business is good. Ladies and gentlemen, I implore you, the next time you see an opportunity coming towards you, reach out and grab it. Go with it. I cannot promise you that you will get where you think you want to go, but you will enjoy that journey. What will it take for you to wake up to the opportunities in your life? Knock, knock. How many have you slept through? Knock, knock. Are you awake now? Knock, knock. Mr. Contest Chair.
Speech entitled My Rock. Please welcome Tom Hable.
Who is your rock? Mr. Contest Chair, friends, do you have someone in your life who is always there for you? Someone you have believed to be perfect. For me, that's my father. When I was growing up, he would lavish advice on me that I didn't always ask for. He would tell me to eat my veg and brush my teeth. Whenever I would stumble and fall, he would tell me to get back up and keep on trying, to never, ever give up. No matter if it was a tempest in a teacup or tropical storm in my heart, my father was always there for me. He was my rock in the raging sea. And then I became a teenager. As the tide of testosterone rose, my grades sank. I did take up some extracurricular activities. Truancy, delinquency, and drinking beer in the park. Instead of doing chores indoors, I was buying pearls for girls. I didn't need any help or advice from anyone. I was a man now. As always, my father was like a rock. But this time, the sea of my disobedience raged around him, threatening to engulf him. He tried to reason with me. Nothing. He scolded me. Nothing. He argued loudly with my mother about my future. Nothing. I asked myself, Do I really need a rock? 3 years ago, the call came that my paternal grandmother had passed away. When my father hung up the phone, his face was blank and his demeanor calm. He sat back down at the dinner table to finish his meal. When he broke the news to us, my mother cried. My father didn't. Instead, he put his arm around my mother's shoulder and comforted her. My father was always there for us. He was our rock. The funeral service was held in the heat of late summer. The air shimmered as the electric wagon carrying my grandmother made its way to the willow grove where she would rest. The priest delivered a brief sermon, and it was time to lay flowers onto the coffin and bid the final farewell. As my eyes welled up, I turned to my father, expecting to see my rock. But what I saw were thick, round tears trickling down his cheeks. As he knelt at the edge of grandmother's grave, his chest shook and his back heaved with the pain and the grief of losing his beloved mother. When I was growing up, she was the one who would call for help and guidance. When we went to visit, she would lavish advice on him that he didn't always ask for. She would tell him to wear his slippers inside and his sweater outside. Whenever my teenage disobedience made him stumble and fall, she would tell him to get back up and keep on trying, to never, ever give up on me. No matter if the problem was big or small, his mother was always there for him. She was his rock. Through thick and thin, his mother had held his hand, just as, through thick and thin, my father had held mine. Now, he had suddenly let go. For the very first time, I recognized my father's imperfections. The rock I remembered from my childhood was smooth and perfect, but my father was tired and weak. His eyes were wrinkled, and his hair was gray. I had never seen him like this before. Perfection, perhaps, holds the key to austere beauty. But I ask you, what good is a smooth and perfect rock in the raging sea if there's nothing to grab onto? Nobody's perfect. Indeed, it is our imperfections that make us who we are. Dare to look at the big picture rather than fretting about the little things that ultimately don't matter. Think about the people who are most important to you. Have you recognized their imperfections? Seeing and accepting the imperfections of another person is a new way of seeing a familiar thing. My father hadn't changed. The way I saw him had. Seeing and accepting the imperfections of another person makes room for embracing their strengths. Accept your loved one's imperfections. Embrace their strengths. Be there for one another. Carry each other. Be each other's rock. Once I accepted my father's imperfection, I was finally able to embrace his strength. I turned to him and embraced him. And as we stood together weeping, I knew he is my rock. He has always been my rock. And now, I'm his. Mr. Contest Chair.
Forget success. Please welcome Kwame Apokave.
3, undeniable, irrefutable, scientifically proven facts that I would like you to confirm with me before I proceed. Fact number 1. All human life begins with an egg. Fact? Fact. Of course, not a chicken's egg. Fact number 2. Humankind, to exist, inhales oxygen and exhales carbon dioxide. Fact? Fact. Fact number 3. As sure as gravity pulls objects down to earth, there is no doubt that all life must at some point die. Contest chair, fellow Toastmasters, and most welcome guests. I share these facts about the space between birth and death with you not to unearth memories of past loved ones with sorrow, but to identify lessons from their lives that we can borrow and apply to our own lives for the next generation to follow. So why do I say forget success? Forget success because in my research, I Googled the word success and had 984 million results. And more than half of these results were made of blogs, articles, and mostly websites set up by so-called financial gurus, wealth consultants, and quack consultants, all peddling secrets to financial success. Now, in fact, this form of materialistic success is promoted so much so that we have become zombified puppets dangling on the strings of consumerism. And like vampires craving blood, we want more and more, but we are never satisfied. I remember when I was a little boy, all I wanted was a bicycle. But when I had a bicycle, I started dreaming of a mountain bike. And now that I have a car, I'm dreaming of a super flashy car. And then I come to Torquay. Have you seen those boats? I want one of them. You see, anytime we get to a certain stage of success, there is yet another one to get to, and another one. And we are desperate to get there that we are prepared to do whatever it takes. Nations are prepared to kill and dominate other nations for their resources. Companies are prepared to contaminate our food supply just to make profit. Even our sportsmen and women will take banned substances and perpetuate a lie just to keep themselves at the top. Even our children are tempted to cheat in their exams so that they can become the first in class. Now, you can see that this form of materialistic success is making monsters out of otherwise gentle, loving people of the world. Well, forget success, right? So what should we do? Forget success and focus on excellence. And by excellence, I'm referring to the dictionary definition that says, to do extremely well. Let us do extremely well. Not only financially, but in every aspect of our lives. Let us do extremely well at being human beings. You know why? Because Aristotle says, we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, therefore, is not an act, but a habit. So while we go on this journey between birth and death, let us consciously, systematically, and consistently endeavor to make a habit of improving ourselves, not in competition with each other, but in collaboration. Just imagine what a fabulous world this will be, where nations collaborate and share the earth's resources for the good of mankind. Imagine what a world this will be when our companies no longer put profit above the welfare of humankind, and our athletes have no need to cheat, and our children will support each other in their education to excel in their exams. Fellow Toastmasters, just as we strive in our individual Toastmasters clubs all over the world to become distinguished communicators, I challenge each and every one of you to strive to cultivate a habit of excellence starting from your homes. Strive to be an excellent partner in your relationship. Strive to be an excellent parent to your children. Strive to be an excellent neighbor in our community. And slowly, perhaps, this art of collaborative excellence will permeate through the whole of society and improve the human race. Focus on success. Because when the journey of life is over and you are down in the earth, will your name be written on tombstones, or will it be enshrined in the hearts and minds of men to come? Contest chair.
With a speech entitled Got the T-Shirt. Got the T-Shirt? Please welcome John Webber.
Mr. Contest Chair, ladies and gentlemen, like you, perhaps, I've been there, I've done it, I've got the T-shirt. I earned my T-shirt back in 2006. It was 5 p.m. on a blazing hot July afternoon, high up in the French Alps with lovely clear blue skies. I was cycling up Alpe d'Huez, the legendary Tour de France climb. That's a 15-kilometre ascent. Believe it or not, I'd set out at 7 a.m. that morning with 8,000 other cyclists. And behind me lay a torturous 200-kilometre trek up and down through high alpine passes. Up ahead of me was another bend in the road, and I was so hoping it was going to be the last. And already I could see an attractive young Englishwoman standing in the middle of the road, looking pretty excited. And as she caught my gaze, her words hit me like the voice of a guardian angel. You are so going to do this! Yes! Englishwoman abroad. I sped up, hurried around the corner, and what did I see? A sight for a sore derriere. The finishing line just a few hundred meters in the distance. Now, you know, sometimes when you think other people are watching, you can put on a bit of a show. Well, I suddenly felt the gaze of thousands of pairs of eyes. So I cranked my bike up to top gear, I stood up out of the saddle, and I gave it some welly. I powered over the line, collected my finisher's medal, and came back trying desperately hard to look as though I could go back and start all over again. Make no mistake, this was the biggest physical achievement of my life. It was an annual cycling event called the Étape. Now, if you're a cyclist, you may know that the Étape is a bit like the London Marathon, only twice as grueling. because the étape involves tackling an arduous alpine stage of the Tour de France. That's complete with climbs up to 20 miles long. In a nutshell, you get to be Bradley Wiggins or Chris Froome for one day, with cheering crowds, roads closed to traffic, and vehicle support. The sting in the tail with the étape is that it's not just about the mountains, because it's also a race against time. And I'll let you into a secret. I finished with minutes to spare. So later that evening, I found a quiet spot on top of the Alp to perform a ritual that I've been planning for weeks. The ritual that involved having my picture taken wearing this T-shirt. It has on it a picture of a tall, dark-haired, slim guy standing next to a bike. This is my Swiss friend Ivo, who would have loved to ride the étape. Only Ivo had another battle to fight, a battle against a very aggressive brain tumour, and a battle that he lost just 2 weeks before the étape. So what sort of a character was Ivo? Well, let me tell you, I cycled the étape to raise money for Naomi House, a children's hospice. When Ivo learned this, he was in the final few weeks of his life, facing certain death. I was blown away to find he had gone online to sponsor me. And in effect, that turned out to be his legacy to me. It reminded me of a time 3 years earlier in my life, back in 2003, when I was in a pit. I was out of work, overweight, divorced, and depressed. Couldn't see my way out of that one. And I remember to this day what Ivo said to me, because his words hit me like the voice of a guardian angel. I know you can do this. Winding forward to the étape in 2006, in the middle of the day, I was stuck down in the valley, 40-degree heat, 2 massive mountains in front of me, still 100 kilometers to go, and I was running out of time. Panic was pulsating through the very core of my being, and I was thinking, are 9 months of training all going to go up in smoke here? And then you know what? I replayed Ivo's words to me, and it felt as though he was standing there over my shoulder. I know you can do this. Now, my guess is that you all have your guardian angels, people who believe in you, people who keep you going when the going gets tough. It could be a teacher, a trainer, or a Toastmaster. Who has supported you on your journey? In terms of my journey, I've been there, got the T-shirt. Except that T-shirt doesn't belong to me. That T-shirt is destined for an 8-year-old boy called Luca. That's Ivo's son. And when he grows up and becomes a young man, I'm going to give him this memento of his dad. I'm going to tell him the story behind it. And I'm going to say to him, I know you can do this. You see, I've learned that we all have opportunities in our lives where we can become like guardian angels for other people. It just takes a few words and a big heart. You will never know how much your words will encourage, can inspire, and might one day become your legacy. Just like what Ivo said to me 10 years ago. Contest chair, ladies and gentlemen, if in life you've got that T-shirt, pass it on. Contest chair.
That was 20 seconds. I'm not very relaxed. Looking out there reminds me of a place called Mundaka, which is in northern Spain. And the waves come 3,000 miles across the Atlantic. And they reach this point where there's a little inlet, and the conditions are perfect for bodyboarding, which is what I was doing a couple of years ago with my dad. The good waves are about 700 yards out into the sea. And to get there, you have to cross this wide, flat bit of water. And halfway across, I got caught in a rip. Do you know what a rip is? Swimmers among you. Don't get me wrong, I love the swimming pool. It's great, but the water kind of just sits there, doing nothing. Whereas the sea has got personality. The rip is where you get pulled underwater by a powerful current. You cannot swim against it. If you try and swim against it, you run out of energy, you become a dropped egg. I was underwater, half a lungful of air, looking up and seeing my bodyboard and my father perfectly serenely on top of the water. There was nothing I could do except watch these bubbles of air winnowing up to the surface. Unusable, unreachable air. And in honesty, I thought about my father's guitar. My father's guitar, which hung from a screw in the living room wall. And he would take it down and play it from time to time as I grew up. Just a tune or two. He wasn't one of the world's great guitarists. But as I grew up and he grew older, he played it less and less often. Until one day, he came back from an appointment with his audiologist with a box under one arm. And my mum said to him, "So what did the audiologist say?" And my father says, "I'm never going to get my hearing back." My mum said, "Did you try the hearing aids?" "I tried the hearing aids, Vivian, but they weren't terribly effective." My mother gave my father the look that seems to be handed out to women on marriage. "Bernard, what's in the box?" "Can you believe, Vivian, £1,000 worth of technological hearing aid equipment? They put them in, they tuned them up, they didn't work." "Bernard, what's in the box?" "We can land a man on the moon. We can get to New York in 3.5 hours. I wasn't going to spend £1,000 on something that didn't work, so I bought myself this camera instead. I've always wanted to take up photography, and now seemed like a perfectly good opportunity." And with that, he took the guitar down from the wall and put it in the loft and said to me, "Son, this is a good lesson. You'll use this one day. Sometimes you cannot change your circumstances. The only thing you can change is your attitude towards them." My mother, that very day, began a campaign to get my father to remove the screw from the living room wall. A vocal campaign, a passionate campaign, and a campaign which lasted a year. But it finished the day that my father hung his first award-winning photograph on that screw. That is not why I am proud of my father. I am proud of my father because I have never heard a syllable of self-pity about his hearing loss. Not a syllable. When people come up to him quite often, they say, "Bernard, it's really sad about your hearing loss." And he'll go, Yeah. "What?" The other thing he sometimes says is, "You know, worse things happen at sea," which is where I was, if you remember. at the beginning of all this, with half a lungful of air, watching the bubbles. So I thought, what am I going to choose to do? Okay, what will I choose to do? Should I swim? Well, we know swimming is no good. Shall I panic? Well, panic will not help. The only thing I can do is choose to relax. That is precisely what I did. Relax, let every last molecule of oxygen do its work. And I sank deeper into this cold, dark place. I thought, surface and what goes on underneath. You can't tell. You can't tell if someone's deaf by looking at them, especially if they haven't bought hearing aids. I wouldn't even be underwater if my father could hear. Do you know why? Because I could ring him up for a chat, and we wouldn't have to go away all the time and do these crazy things. And thinking about what John's just said, I know how lucky I am to have a father. He's 68. We're not going to get very many more years where we do stupid things like bodyboarding in Mundaka. Sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you don't. I got very lucky. The sea played with me, and as I felt my eyes dimming, I rushed to the surface. I breathed in those salty airs. My father looked at me and said, "Where have you been?" And I looked at the old guys walking up the seafront, and I looked at the waves, and I said, "Bernard, let's get some surf." Mr. Contest Chair.
Scotch, the way to a better life. Please welcome William Dempster.
In the year of our Lord 1773, Dr. Samuel Johnston was quoted as saying, "Life is a pill that no man should bear ungilded." The gilding that he spoke of was Scotch whisky. The pill that he referred to was the daily grind that each and every one of us have to face. Contest Chair, fellow Toastmasters, welcome and distinguished guests. My name is William Dempster, and my speech this beautiful afternoon is called Scotch, the way to a better life. Now, before I tell you how Scotch can lead to a better way of life, please allow me to impart upon you the most important aspect of this delectable implement. Implement, I hear you all ask. Implement, I hear you all cry. For that is what it is. You see, Scotch whisky is not just an intoxicating liquor. It is not merely an alcoholic beverage. More, it is an implement of spiritual genius. And the most important aspect is how it ought to be drunk. Please allow me to let you into a little secret. Scotch whisky is not particularly pleasant. It is not a smooth Italian red wine, nor is it a sweet, mature French brandy. It is barley malt mixed with Scottish mineral water, smoked over peat fires. It does not sound nice, and it does not taste nice. Every ardent Scotch drinker will wince at its flavour. We suffer for our art. But we do not drink it for its taste. Rather, we drink it for the feeling that it provides. Like red wine, it should be decanted and served at room temperature. And when in the glass, you should savour the aroma like the angels have savoured it before you. A little known fact about Scotch whisky is that as it matures in oak barrels, it loses 1% of its alcoholic strength every year. As it breathes out through the wood, it enters the environment and ascends to the heavens. In the Highlands, this is called a dram for the angels. Unlike red wine, it should never be sipped. It should pass the taste buds as quickly as humanly possible. Allow me to demonstrate. Then, and only then, you will understand why we drink it. As the liquid flows down to your toes, it bounces back up into your soul and into your mind. It heightens your passions, it increases your senses.